nighttime excursion, but she's asleep, and in the morning she'll remember virtually nothing about it. In his sleep, Martin Gillett scours his bedroom for imaginary enemies. Melvin Sharp acts out his dreams and has even attacked his wife in his sleep.
Hey! Hey!
Oh, stop it.
Stephen Hutchison wakes terrified with an overwhelming urge to escape. But this is not a nightmare.
Die. Hey!
All of these people have night cameras in their bedrooms to record their trouble with sleep. Susan Cope has walked and talked in her sleep since she was a child. Her husband Graham has had to put up with disrupted nights for the past 20 years.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, no. Look, you've got to come. You can't stay the night. Right.
I'm out of bed and going around, but not awake. Not knowing what I'm doing, still asleep, but moving around. Going back to sleep again isn't a problem, because I've never really been awake. As soon as my head hits the pillow, I'll be back to sleep.
I can always tell because of the eyes. The eyes are going very, very small pupils. And if you look at her pupils now, and they're so wide, but when you look at them in sleepwalking, they're minute. They're like little dots. And immediately you know that, because she can be so convincing that she's awake and holding a conversation, but then you look at the eyes and you know that you've just got to go through the getting back to sleep bit, and as soon as she goes back to sleep, gone.
Oh my God. We can't do this, no. I can't do this, is all. Oh dear.
Why can't you do it, dear? You can do it, dear.
I can't.
Why not?
Because I can't get all the cameras set up in the other person's house. We haven't had the insurance form or anything for this lot. Did we?
It's okay, it's fine.
It's not.
Why is it not fine, dear?
We can video here, but I'm not, what?
Not aware, dear.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
You have a nice lay down.
Thank you.
Susan can sleepwalk and sleep talk about whatever's on her mind several times a night, always with the same urgency.
No. You'd think something was really, really wrong, you know, because the intensity is horrendous, isn't it?
Because I'm really convinced that what I'm talking about is reality, and you're the one that won't help me.
You've come out of that subconscious sleep, and you've definitely had to wake yourself up to think: is it a real situation? Is there something wrong? Are your kids in bed? Have they come in late?
I think sometimes I nearly convince you that I'm right, and
Oh,
you're
yeah.
the one that's...
Definitely. And you actually think, because your children are getting older and out driving and all the rest, is there a situation going on, and should I wake up and get going, you know? Should I react to it?
What? So what?
What's wrong? What's wrong?
Does Dad know?
You'll know in a minute.
So what's happened to Emma yesterday then?
Right, yesterday.
What? She had an accident in the car.
When?
Yesterday.
When?
Jesus Christ. I think she might be waiting to tell you. I don't know.
You're joking.
I don't know.
When did you do this then?
It's in my night.
What?
This is real as real, this is.
No, it isn't.
I got to a stage where I was waking up more tired than when I went to bed. Going to bed was really tiring because 2-3 hours of the night, it was just in and out of bed constantly. And the times when I was asleep, my body was lying down. My mind still carried on and was active and was being energetic, really.
About 15% of children sleepwalk. Most grow out of it, but for some the condition persists into adulthood. It can even start later in life, and there's no single known cause for it.
Okay, you're going to be bees.
Sleepwalkers are in a mixed state of being part asleep and part awake.
You're going to be jumping bees.
They are conscious enough to carry out complex tasks, but still asleep and unaware of their actions.
Well done, and stop.
Sleepwalking usually happens at the beginning of the night, before we start to dream, and can be made worse by stress or tiredness.
Go, walk your way around the playground, Bean. A broad Bean. How wide can you get your legs? One of the things we've been doing recently was numeracy at school, counting in 5s and 10s. And I know in my sleep, I've been told by Graham that I was counting backwards, going 50, 45, 40. So it's very difficult to switch off, and the things that you've done in the day do tend to come back out in what I say during the night. Just relax, Arthur, he said, and let me do the worrying. Did you enjoy the story?
Yeah.
It's good, wasn't it? So sometimes they keep you going all the time, really, from the minute you arrive in school. I mean, such as this morning, I was here since 7:30, getting ready for the classroom. From then, we've been in the computer room. We've done maths, literacy, out to PE, music. The children won't wait for you. You've got to be ready for them. But I don't think I'd really realised the effect that was having. A penguin and a robot party. Sounds good.
Susan has been asleep for nearly an hour.
We haven't got a bed. And we haven't got... I can't get them down, can I? How are they coming down? And where's Tom going to sleep? Where are they sleeping?
It's either to do with the relative staying or a friend staying. Have we looked after them? Have we made the bed up for them? Things like that. All sorts of really practical things.
You're always.
You're
thing is,
clear.
you're always panicking. Whenever you sleep talk, you're always something's
panic.
wrong.
I wake up in a panic.
You're always
And you've got to
you're
calm
always
you.
wrong, and something's wrong. Something's going wrong at school. Something's wrong with money. Something's wrong with Emma.
On the rare occasion when I've got fed up with it and I've reacted by saying go to sleep or something like that, it works the wrong way, because if you don't actually talk to you and carry on with what your conversation and agree with you go aggressive. I've got to be patient. But trouble is, it's not always easy because I'm half asleep trying to be patient.
Anything that Susan has been dealing with during the day can intrude later in her sleep. In this case, two unrelated things: the BBC's cameras and the mortgage.
Shrek.
What's up?
Oh, we haven't. Do you know, Shrek? We haven't cancelled the BBC yet. We entered the endowment out and you never cancelled it.
Right. Well, I'll do that in a while.
No, Graham.
I'll do it.
We've had it for 2 weeks now.
Have we?
5,000.
Haven't we?
Yes.
I'll sort it out in the morning, dear. All right? Come back into bed and have a cuddle up.
Martin Gillard loves video games.
I used to come home and sit down for about 8 or 9 hours and then play maybe 8 hours at a weekend. I get so engrossed into the games, I take it with me to the bed and I go to sleep with it on my mind, and maybe that's it. I don't know, but it's just, I know the more realistic ones probably would make me sleepwalk a bit more.
If you get
gets a new game, he'll play till 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and he'll just be sat straight in front of the TV like that. I'm used to going, good night, and just taking myself off to bed.
This makes for interesting nights for Martin's wife, Gemma.
Martin, what's wrong? Martin.
I've just spilt grey blood.
Martin.
I just spilt grey blood.
Martin, wake up. Martin.
Gemma.
Martin, wake up.
Gemma, I'm awake. Hello. I spilt grey blood on the sheets.
No, you haven't.
No, I have.
No, you haven't. Wake up. Martin, wake up.
Gemma. I am awake. Hello.
There's no such thing as grey blood.
Joke blood. Have you seen it?
Red.
Gemma can be woken several times a night by Martin, who's still asleep, but will argue that he's awake.
Where's this blood that you were meant to have spilt?
In my sleep, I've thought I was doing something. So, for example, I'm looking under the bed and I'm trying to look for it could be anything. And it could be something that doesn't even exist in reality. And I wake Gemma up while I'm doing this. But what's coming out of my mouth is total gibberish. But I'll be pretty damn confident that what I'm doing is right. And slowly, as we argue, over like 10, 20, 30 seconds, I'll become more awake and I realise what I'm doing. And then I'll just be like, oh, I'm actually sleepwalking, sorry. And I'll feel quite bad and I'll be humbled by the whole situation and I'll go climb straight back into bed.
You do always go, oh. In our old flat, when we first got the video game, he'd wake me up and he'd be like, look, look. And I'd be thinking, what? And he'd go, the Russians are on the cupboard and they're shooting at us. I'd be like, oh, go back to sleep.
Was I on the end of the bed in a sniping position?
No, that was in this house. But what you did in the old house, we had one of those lamps with the switches that come through, those really old, ancient lamps you had. And I just woke up to the light going on and off, like a strobe light.
I thought it was a shotgun.
Yeah.
In a game.
And I was doing the trigger. But in this house, I've woken up to him on his belly in like a sniping position with the gun just aimed at the wall. So effectively, like this hand's about that far away from the wall, just, you know, aiming at something with all the pillows on the floor where it's turned over, ready to do that.
I'm not just a gamer, I'm also a collector of games. This is the majority of my software. Some of them date back to the 1970s. This is what I do, this is what I collect. It's just a hobby, you know. It's not life or death, but it's a lot of fun.
In people who are prone to sleepwalking, going to bed with things on their mind can make the condition worse.
You need to shut down before you go to sleep. He'll play a game, switch it off, come straight to bed. Whereas I'll be on the PC, switch it off, be a bit mad and talk to the cat or something. You tend to do something, not go straight to bed. It doesn't matter of the genre of games, he still walks. So it's a particularly violent one or it's a driving one, he'll still go. So I think it's his personality and the fact that he doesn't shut down is the reason he walks, not the game as such. But like I said, if it's stuff at work, he still walks. I think it's his personality.
I've got to show you this thing, so, yeah.
What thing?
The thing that that's surrounding the bedroom.
Come on. Martin.
A few years ago, in his sleep, he turned over and he whacked me and fractured my eye socket. And at that point, it was, you are not playing any more games. I phoned him up from like the hospital waiting area to say they think I've fractured my eye socket. They're just, can you see me? And he's like, I'm so sorry, I'll never play video games again. And I phoned up my dad, and obviously my dad's was like, are you sure it was just in his sleep? And my dad was fine. And I told his mum, and his mum really told him off. So he came home with like chocolates and that. I'm so sorry, I'll never play them again. And then we sat there, and then well, I just won't play them for a while. And then it got down to, well, I won't play them for 2 weeks. And he managed his 2 weeks, but he went back. It does get to points at times where I go, I need to sleep, I can't cope, and it's just self-maintenance on his part. Like with kind of any good, healthy type routine, you tend not to do it unless someone gives you a bit of a kick. It's just occasionally having to go, you need to do this. And he will, it's just a constant reminder, just a little reminder.
I do know what I'd have to do in order to, stop sleepwalking. But I think if Gemma made a bigger issue out of it, then I wouldn't play video games and then go straight to bed afterwards. If it was affecting our relationship and divorce was on the cards, then I'd probably pack them up and sell them at a boot sale or something. We're both quite flexible with each other's different quirks or whatever, and I think that makes it part of our relationship. It makes it so good because we give each other a lot of leeway. I think you have to, because both of us are in quite high pressure jobs. It just goes to make up the overall mix. It's good that she understands, because a lot of people would get freaked out and wouldn't want to know.
Although sleepwalking can get you into trouble, most sleepwalkers and their partners don't come to any harm, but some sleep disorders can lead to violence. 65-year-old Melvin Sharp and his wife Beryl never had problems sleeping, but 5 years ago, Melvin started to act out his dreams.
I was dreaming of playing golf and walking down the fairway of the second. I looked behind and there was somebody on the tee, a pal of mine, who had passed away at least 10 years ago, standing on the tee, on the second tee. And I shouted back, Phil, don't drive yet. 4, because I was still on the fairway. But he didn't listen, as he never did anyhow. God rest his soul. And the next thing I knew was the ball coming straight for me. I can see it now. And then the next thing I knew was I must have tried to evade the ball hitting me straight in the face. And I dived out of bed. And that was when my wife found me at the end of the bed, and I was bleeding quite a lot from my nose, but I'd hit my face on the way out of the bed. But that was it was frightening at the time.
I think that was the first time well, we'd never had one as bad as that anyway. And from then on, they've got progressively worse.
I love golf, but it's frustrating because I can't understand why I would hit one good shot and then the following one is a terrible shot. And it happens all the time. Oh, Jesus. I've always loved sport. Yeah, in Ireland we played football, I played rugby. My wife woke me up one night, asked me to stop kicking her in the bed. And she said I was kicking you. What was I doing? So I said I'd just scored a winning goal at Wembley. And she stopped me from scoring. I was just going to put the ball in the back of the net. The best goal that was ever seen at Wembley. By an Irishman.
Melvin has been asleep for 3.5 hours.
Oh, stop it. Don't.
The times when I've become aggressive, I can recollect that I have been attacked or chased or somebody is after me for whatever reason. I don't know any reasons why. And I'm trying to punch my way out of somewhere or pushing into crowds and getting away from that person. And invariably I put my hands out and to push my way through, and I come in contact with Beryl.
Oh, stop it.
Once or twice, put my arms around Beryl, thought that she was the one that was attacking me. I once saw a dog trying to attack me, and I woke up in the middle of the night rather frantically.
Well, my heart races. If you're lying in a really deep sleep and someone starts battering you on the head, I think your immediate reaction would be somebody's walked into the bedroom and they're trying to knock you out or whatever. But it's the person lying next to me, and it's very scary. I have terrible palpitations, and, obviously in the middle of the night everything seems worse. And I suppose within, 5 minutes, it's all calm again, but it seems like 5 hours. So you can wait until next week. Okay.
Melvin goes back to sleep quickly after an episode, but his nighttime activities can leave Beryl feeling exhausted. She works alongside Melvin in his dental surgery.
If it's been really bad and it's upset me, if he's had a night where he's been hitting out, then obviously I find it much more difficult to go back to sleep. And so I could be up maybe 2 or 3 hours in the night. And yes, I'm tired the next morning. He's very strong. He is very, very strong. And when he lashes out, obviously because of his profession, he has very strong hands. And he does hurt, he really does.
Hey! Hey!
At the very beginning, I would even cry because I'd had such a fright. And then he would, because he was so upset that he'd hurt me.
Very much. Thank you very much.
We've gone through all the scenario, maybe we should have single beds or whatever, but it's not really what I want to do.
I love my wife very dearly, and it's not normal for a man, if he loves somebody, to lash out at somebody. I'd lash out at somebody if I didn't like them, or they caused me some aggro, then I would lash out. But to lash out against a woman or the person that you're very much in love with and means everything to me, it's not normal. What the cause of it is, I don't know. But to my way of thinking, it is not normal. It's not right. And it deeply upsets me.
Melvin has been referred to a specialist centre where his sleep patterns will be examined by doctors.
I like to have a peaceful, restful night. Certainly not hit out at my wife. I hope they maybe find the reason why I have the type of dreams that I have, and if there's a way that I can avoid them.
At the sleep centre at Papworth Hospital in Cambridgeshire, Melvin will be monitored overnight by sleep technologist Sarah Jameson.
When you're asleep, are you a restless sleeper? Do you toss and turn a lot?
I'm told I am.
I'm told you are. You're not aware of it, but you are. Yeah. Does your wife complain that you throw your arms and legs around, kick her?
I think there's some, yes, yeah.
And have you ever managed to hurt yourself? You know, flinging your arm out and hit the furniture or anything like that? Often or just occasionally?
I've thrown myself out of bed.
Out of bed, right.
But I have been known to think that I've been attacked.
Yep.
And then I responded in a similar way, aggressively.
Yes.
And unfortunately, my wife gets the...
Yes. So we want to look at the quality of your sleep, and the camera will be watching you all night. Okay, we'll make a video of you sleeping in bed, which will be...
Can't help my golf swing, can you?
Sorry. Not a golf player, and you might be able to look at it tomorrow morning and see a golf swing in there somewhere. We'll see.
Yeah, fine.
Right. Okay, thank you.
And will all those results be given tomorrow?
We'll give the results to Dr. Smith, the consultant, and he will see you and talk to you about the results.
Tomorrow?
Yeah. These ones either side of your eyes, I'm looking to pick up the movement of your eyes.
Right.
At certain stages of sleep, your eyes flick backwards and forwards a lot, up and down. Hence the name rapid eye movement sleep.
All right.
And this is what we're looking for, the rapid eye movements.
Right.
But when you go into the rapid eye movement sleep, the REM sleep, your muscle tone should disappear altogether. You should lose all your muscle movement, which is a mechanism to make sure you don't start acting out your dreams. So what we look for in your case is possibly that muscle tone doesn't disappear in REM sleep, which is why you're still able to do things that are related to your dreams.
Right.
You work away from home, I would say, majority of the week. Certainly Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Sometimes you can actually be away on a Friday. I've got 3 small children, so that's a serious disadvantage. The fact that you don't really get to see to them much at all during the week. It's Saturdays and Sundays only.
Stephen Hutchison has been driving lorries for 12 years. He spends most nights in lorry parks around the country. Tonight, he's meeting up with his friend William Heron, the man who introduced Stephen to long-distance driving 20 years ago.
When Stephen was a teenager, he used to come with me an odd weekend in the wagon, and I'd said to him during the day, there's a chance I'm going to Hull tonight. Would you like to come with me? We stopped for a snooze, you would call it, and after maybe half an hour, I was slightly worried because I heard was roaring and shouting, and it's as if somebody was getting murdered in my cab. First of all, I thought the noise was coming from outside the cab, and then I realised it was inside the cab. So I was scared to go out and confront Stephen, because it's an old saying, when you confront a burglar, it then becomes a murderer. So I wasn't sure how Stephen would take this.
Yeah, I seem to remember waiting up round about the passenger seat somewhere. And my little pal here was sort of curled underneath his quilt. Are you all right?
Curled in the corner of the bed. He then told me about having sleeping problems and dreaming, and spiders and...
Not too nice for you.
No, I got a fright, you know. I did genuinely get a fright. Since then, I don't think we've slept together. Not that we do that on a regular basis, but you know what I mean?
No, it's not something we'd rush into, is it?
Like most long-distance drivers, when he's on the road, Stephen sleeps in the cab of his lorry. Stephen suffers from night terrors. They've been with him since he was a teenager. Stephen is not dreaming. He's in deep sleep, but suddenly gripped by an uncontrollable sense of dread and panic. The night terrors often wake him, but unlike nightmares, he has no recollection of what terrified him.
It's not a nightmare. A nightmare is something that you're actually living, you're in it and you're doing it. You can't really pull yourself out of it. It sort of comes to a dramatic end, like fall over a cliff or somebody knocks you over or something. These things, I don't know how they start, and I know how they end because I'm waking up. But the in-between bit, it's, I don't know. I just get the feeling that I just have to get out wherever I am. Whether that's in a small space like this, or whether it's in my bedroom, or even abroad, when you go on holiday abroad, you know. Hey! What generally happens is I just try to get out of the cab. That's the bottom line. I'll either open the door, and hopefully with the fresh air coming in, that maybe helps me out, that maybe wakens me up. What's happened quite recently is when I put this chair forward, I've tried to rip it out, and I've cut myself a couple of times just with the bits of metal round about, trying to move it, you know, and you wouldn't be able to move it unless you had a spanner or something, but for some reason or another, my brain at that time doesn't seem to know that, you know, and I'm there trying to rip seats out of lorries. It's all pretty sad, isn't it, really? But there you go, that's what happens. You can feel a little bit, I don't mean scared. I mean, I'm not scared of too many things in my life, but I probably try to reassure myself at night just by looking out the window. Sometimes you can wake up and you'll sit here and you'll say, God, that was another one of these things, but you can also go back into sleep again, and then 10 minutes later, you're having another one. I mean, it can happen maybe 2 and 3 times. I mean, I remember an incident at my mum and dad's house when I stayed there. I had a wardrobe, and I pulled the wardrobe down on top of myself, and everybody came up the stairs and we put it back together, and I went back to bed, and I done it again. So it's not just a one a night thing, you know, it can happen quite regular. And they put they put all drivers round about these lorry parks at night. I'm sure some of them, when they're parked close to you, they must hear it as well, and must get a little bit concerned that there's some screwball parked beside them, you know. Certainly get some funny looks sometimes, yeah. So you tend to try and either sneak out early or just keep your curtains closed till about 7:30 in the morning by the time everybody's away.
Anything that troubles Susan during the day can intrude at night in her sleep.
I've always been trying to lose weight. This is a picture of me with my mum and dad, and that was an issue, obviously, then. And so I can remember about the age of 13 going to Weight Watchers, and throughout my life there's been a sort of pressure to try different diets, different ways of trying to lose weight. But it was always a very difficult thing to do, really. And anything that you lost, somehow, as it always does, creeps back on again.
Susan has been asleep for an hour and a quarter.
The more that I tried to control the food that I was eating during the day, if I was trying to reduce my weight and cut down, the more it was subconsciously on my mind. And that was what I would go in search of during my sleep.
Despite being asleep, Susan has managed to find some chocolate she'd put by for a family outing the following day.
Sleepwalking doesn't really bother me. Talking and the walking, I've never come to any harm. I always end up back in bed again. The eating of the food, I felt it was something that I really should be able to stop. But sometimes when I've woken up, I've already had my breakfast by the time I get up, and I was really ashamed of the fact that I could control what I was eating during the day. I could have healthy breakfast, healthy lunch, but then during the sleep, I had no control over that at all. And it got to a stage where it was getting worse and worse and more frequent. I would be waking every hour. It'll be something later on in the day that I'll find an empty packet, and that will say, oh yes, and now I remember what I've actually eaten. It will come back to me that I'd tried to hide the evidence, and if I begin to look, I will find it further down the bin, screwed up or, you know, put out of sight. Because I don't want other people to know what I've been doing. So I think I can. The crumbs that end up on the work surface, I mean, a tin or a packet I would get rid of, but in my walking and talking, I'm not aware that I'm leaving the crumbs, but those are the bits that give my game away sometimes. To give you some idea of the complicated things I actually manage to do while I'm sleepwalking, one of the things I've done is actually come and collect the garage key, which getting out of this pot is quite a complicated task. Take that with me, obviously going towards the garage, out of the patio door. It's quite a big pull. And then obviously heading towards the freezer in search of ice cream. So through the garage door, round the corner here, and just over here is actually the freezer. So lifting the lid, rooting around in here and eventually finding something like a choc ice. And then still being sort of asleep, not really being awake, anxious to get back to bed and taking the ice cream with me, heading off back to bed, climb into bed, sit there and eat the choc ice or whatever. And then next morning you'll find the telltale wrapper at the side of the bed discarded on the bedside table.
Susan was so frustrated that her attempts to diet were being sabotaged by eating in her sleep, she sought professional help. For the past 3 years, she's been visiting consultant neurophysiologist Dr. Zenobia Zaiwala.
Are you waking up, Susan, when you have these episodes, or do you just walk and go back to bed?
I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly where I've been and what I've done. Vague recollections or something I may say or something I might find will be the trigger to think, oh yes.
Because once you're awake fully, then the chance of you doing it again that night will be less.
Whereas sometimes if you don't wake, the chances are you'll then go back to sleep and it will happen
wake up
again.
Yes.
As part of her treatment, Susan's sleep patterns were analysed by Dr. Zaiwala.
Now, what happens with sleepwalkers is that they usually have quite a lot of deep sleep. They're good sleepers. They are never insomniacs. And they go into a very good block of deep sleep. We need deep sleep to feel refreshed in the morning. But when they wake up abruptly, they may carry out activity that is underlying in their mind, and that causes the problem. So when we did Susan's, you can see over here that she does go to sleep, falls asleep very quickly, But her deep sleep is interrupted, so instead of waking up gently and going into a block of dream sleep, she has these abrupt arousals. She's physically waking up, but the brain is in a half-sleep, half-wake state. Some nights she might just sit up and go back to sleep, or actually walking out of the room and getting some food to eat and getting back to bed without actually fully waking. There are a lot of people who feel very hungry at night, get up, go down to the kitchen and have something to eat. They wake up and they're fully awake and they know they're eating. In Susan's case, she's not fully awake, so that is quite a different condition from those who just binge at night. She has no memory of it the next morning, so she feels out of control.
Susan has been told she must do something to reduce her high blood pressure and is trying to lose weight again on a low-fat diet.
That amazingly had an effect on my sleep. And so in my sleep, I actually managed to find low-fat snacks. Whereas before it was sort of perhaps cakes and chocolates and biscuits and things like that. But I'm getting much better at searching out perhaps the bananas at the moment and low-fat snacks at the moment. It'd be interesting for me to see what I'm actually doing, because I can't tell you half of the time.
Stephen and his wife Anita have been married for 16 years and have 3 children. It wasn't until they started living together that Anita found out he suffered from night terrors.
I don't remember telling her anything about it. I just thought I'd leave that little sort of chestnut till later on, years till she found out. Got a bit of a fright the first time, I'm sure. Eh?
We got a flat together, we moved in together, and it wasn't maybe a week after we'd moved into the flat, went to bed, about 2 hours maybe into bed, and he's physically trying to lift this door up from the bottom, and you're shouting and there's no response, there's no nothing, and then you think, oh, what is this? What is going on? I was going home to my mum. I wasn't hanging about, I was going. It was horrendous. He's a big guy, which doesn't help, and when he's running around the room 100 miles an hour, you know, throwing himself about, screaming, bawling, it was absolutely terrifying, is the only way to put it. So obviously after that he had to spill the beans.
The worst incident for Stephen and Anita happened when they were living in a flat on the 4th floor of a tenement block.
Started off just as a usual freak out, waking up, screaming, running around the room, bawling at the top of his voice. The adrenaline was pumping through him. He was terrified and obviously was trying to get out of the situation, obviously that was in his head, and he started going towards the window.
There was that one up there, just when you come from the end of the building, at the top, the first window you come to there.
So he started throwing himself at the window and he was getting entangled in the curtains. There was no response, there was nothing. He was oblivious that it was me, it was there. I was biting, I was scratching, kicking, anything I could do just to stop him going through the window. And we actually fell, we actually lost our balance and we fell. And I was able to then reach the light switch and get the light switch on. But even for maybe seconds after it, he was still going for this window. And the whole incident was absolutely terrifying. I've never experienced anything like it in my life. He's had some real bad ones, he's had some beauties over the years, but that one that night, he was going, he was getting out, and if it meant coming through that window, he was doing it.
It's not very nice to see it just now, actually. Because if you'd went through there, obviously, you know, you never know what could have happened.
Just sheer and utter determination and obviously love for this big guy. There was no way it was going to end there. There was no way that he was going out that window. I don't think we stayed in the flat too much longer after that event, to be honest.
No, definitely not.
Now Stephen and Anita live in a 2-storey house.
I don't try and throw myself out windows anymore. I haven't done that for a long time. They've certainly calmed down over the last few years. But I still get the need that I have to escape.
Because of his shifts, Stephen is often in bed before Anita. Their 2-year-old son also sleeps in their room.
No, no.
It's like having another baby. You're always listening and you're thinking, was that a noise? Did I hear a bang? What was that? And he always seems to be going for the stairs now. And I'm always frightened that he's, even with the stairs or whatever, you just don't know. And sometimes as I reach the bedroom door, he's coming out. And you're like, right, about time.
No, but sometimes by the time you get up the stairs, I'm back in bed again, tut tut.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He's got out, ran round the bed and went back in. What's all the noise? Oh, here we go.
Like sleepwalking, night terrors often have a genetic link. 2-year-old Stephen and his older sister Katie, who's 9, show no signs of the disorder. But Stephen and Anita are worried that 5-year-old Nicola has inherited the condition from her father.
The puppy one.
Initially when she had them, you don't want to go down the road that she's got what Stephen's got. Absolutely not. So you think bad dreams. She's up, she's sitting up in bed or kneeling up in bed, screaming. And you obviously would say, come on, it's a bad dream, darling, you're okay. Nothing, no response. Like Stephen, she's so far gone that she doesn't even know you're there. Her eyes are wide open. They're almost protruding and they're completely glazed and her eyes are fixed. Now, I'm there with her, you're close and you're saying, come on, Nikki, you're fine, it's a bad dream, you're all right. Nothing.
Are you going to pretend that? Sometimes when I go to bed and I have horrible dreams about monsters, I don't really like it. And just last night I had a horrible dream and I didn't like it. So I just ran into my mummy's bed and I said if I could come and cuddle her.
I've had occasions where I've lifted her out of bed and sat cradling her on my knee, rocking with her.
Right.
Just sitting, rocking with her, just... Basically, you know it's not going to stop till it stops. They'll stop whenever they're going to stop, like Stephen, whether it's 5 minutes, whether it's 10 minutes. It's as if it's got to run its course. And you think, it's been bad enough for Stephen, obviously, the age he's at, and I think, God, I don't want her to go through life like that.
I got it in my teens, and I've still got it. So hopefully if Nicola has got it, she's only 4, sort of 5-year-old, she might grow out of it by the time she comes to her teens. You know, sometimes things can work that way. Hopefully that'll be the case. But it's not nice to know that you've passed something not very nice on. I mean, it's all right to pass on other things, but not the fact that you're passing this crazy guy running about in your head sometimes at night time.
We never go to bed and sleep right through to 7:30 in the morning, whether it be Stephen or Nikki or the wee fella.
First up is baby Stephen. Next, Nicola's having a bad dream. Stephen's had a night terror and frightened his baby son. Nicola's up again.
No.
Then Stephen. And finally baby Stephen again.
Honestly, it's just like musical chairs. Some nights you've maybe only literally had 2 or 3 hours sleep. If you've had a real Bobby Dazzler of a night, the clock goes off, and some mornings you feel as if you have just opened your eyes and you're thinking, this is just not happening, please. You really should be in your own bed, young lady.
Oh, what's the difference, you know what I mean? I mean, after all, it's 20 to 3, it's half an hour's couple a night. That's what it's going to be, isn't it?
At Papworth Hospital's sleep centre, Melvin has spent the night being monitored and will get the results of his tests this morning.
Slept very well, actually, despite all the headgear and everything around my body and down my legs and my 2 arms. I thought I did quite well. I can't remember anything happening. I was still in the bed in one piece when I woke up this morning. And the room looked all right. It didn't look, you know, as if I'd been flashing around in it.
Sleep consultant Dr. Ian Smith has been analysing Melvin's results to find out why he can sometimes be aggressive in his sleep.
He didn't sleep that well, by my standards.
So when he first goes into REM, muscle tone's gone, but then it starts to come back up.
Disappears, but it doesn't stay down. It rapidly starts twitching.
And was there anything on the video to tie in with
There's a little bit, there's little twitches.
But he's moving about quite a lot. So this is, we think he's in REM.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, well I think there's probably enough there for us to work on. Let's go and talk to Mr. Sharp. Okay.
All right.
The only thing that annoys me, or not annoys me, upsets me, is that I'm frightened that in one of these episodes I might do some harm, not to myself, but to my wife.
There are several things that we've found, so that it's quite positive. We've found
something,
some abnormalities, some things that probably explain your symptoms. Right. Normally, when we go into rapid eye movement sleep, your body is paralysed. All the muscles are useless. You can't move. And that's for a reason, because if you're dreaming about something, then the tendency would be to move about. When you go into dream sleep, when you go into that stage of sleep, rather than being paralysed, you've still got full muscle tone and you move about. And that signifies a condition that we call REM behaviour disorder, which comes on in about your time of life, not uncommonly, consists of dreams that often have a slightly threatening character, and are very vivid, and you start acting them out when you should be quiet in bed asleep. And it's not uncommon to have some minor injuries from that, and to sometimes thump the wife or anybody else who's in reach. Sometimes this is associated with Parkinson's disease.
Oh, right.
But from what you've described, there's nothing to suggest that.
It's reassuring, because I thought it might have been a precursor to it, an Alzheimer's or something like that, you know.
I don't think there's anything to suggest that.
No.
No. So that's good news. And it's often quite simply controlled with medication. I think that it's something that you need to decide between you. The medication isn't harmful, but there's always a risk of side effects.
Yeah.
But I don't think there are any more tests we need to do at the moment.
That's
I think
great.
it's quite conclusive.
Yeah, that's reassuring, anyhow. He was a very nice man, and explained the whole situation.
And what did he say?
I was more concerned that it might have been the start of a condition later on in life. And I did think that maybe, and I haven't said it to you.
No, well, actually, that's what I thought too. But I hadn't said
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's, yes, that's exactly what I thought.
And he said, no way was it Alzheimer's. There were no other symptoms. The case history and everything that go with it wasn't anything like that.
So I'm quite relieved, I have to say. It certainly was in the back of my mind. And then yesterday I was quite twitchy. I have to say I was very on edge about the whole thing. I just wanted it to be over and I wanted to know that there was nothing. And he was so on edge the last couple of days. All's well that ends well, yes? It is the truth, isn't it? Oh, that's all right.
We can't do this, no. I can't do this, is all. Oh dear.
Why can't you do it, dear?
Susan is doing well. She has lost more than a stone on her diet and is getting up less to eat in her sleep. She wanted to find out what she did while our cameras were recording her asleep.
I don't remember. I can't get all the cameras set up in the other person's house. We haven't had the insurance form or anything for this long. Did we?
It's okay, it's fine.
It's not.
Why is it not fine, dear?
We can video here, but I'm not, what?
Not aware, dear.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
How Graham tries to sort of sort me out and put me back to sleep, doesn't he?
Why?
So everything that happens to me just sort of comes up in my dreams a day later, a week later, or something like that. That's incredible. Oh, here we come. Oh my, no, I found the chocolate. Oh, but I'm not awake. This is the awful thing. Oh my goodness, into the kitchen, eating the chocolate. Two, 3 years ago, that used to happen every single night, but not just once every night, twice every night. And I've actually found that I can lose weight, which I never did before. It's raised my confidence in myself, how I feel about myself, and food is no longer as big an issue as it was. The one thing I wanted to stop was the fact that I ate in my sleep. I don't want it to be me doing that. I want it to be somebody else doing that. And that's something that I've virtually managed to stop.